Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over an interesting pattern which is going to be taking place over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be seeing that northern part of the country get overtaken by some of that warmer air, and then the southern half of the country should be going into a bit of a chillier and colder time period. It will eventually pass over in the next 2 or 3 weeks when we should switch over from cold to warm in parts of the southern United States. So soon much of the country will actually be in an above normal pattern. We're going to be going over where your high temperatures are going to be like over the next 7 days, and we're also going to be going over your temperature anomaly map, so giving you an idea of how far above or below normal your temperatures will actually be. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we have excessive heat warnings, watches, and advisories in parts of California and southwestern Oregon, and then the complete opposite up in parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, where we actually still have a few freeze warnings and frost advisories in place. So all that cold air, which is currently in the northern half of the country, that'll be moving into the southern United States, and that warm air over the west will be moving into the northern half of the country. So we're going to be seeing pretty much a swap over the next couple of days. We had a high temperature yesterday in Death Valley, California, where they got up to 108 degrees Fahrenheit, with a low temperature in Brimson, Minnesota, where they got down to 18 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest rainfall report was in Monett, Missouri, where they got 4.34 inches of rain, and there were no snowfall reports yesterday. So here's what the temperature anomaly forecast looks like, and we're going to go over about the next 7 or 8 days and just play this through. In the blues, the greens, the purples, that's where you're below normal, so that's where you're colder than normal, and that's indicating a colder air mass. And then in the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and even kind of that brownish color, that's where we're above normal, and that's where we're expecting to see warmer than normal temperatures. So we have warmer temperatures in the orange and red colors, and then the green and blue colors, that's where we're below normal. This would be for tomorrow, and you can see that we have well below normal temperatures through parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, and then we have another area of fairly below normal in through parts of the central United States. But as a whole, we have a much below normal pattern for parts of the eastern two-thirds of the country. So much of the area from the Rockies eastward is going to actually be under some below normal temperatures, and then the only area that might be above normal will be possibly the area just surrounding the Canadian border, and then also in parts of the western United States. So really, it's going to be an isolated type of warmth over the next couple of days. Eventually, that warm air will actually expand a little bit, and it'll start heading east of the Rockies as well. So this would be by tomorrow. Here to be by Monday, and you can see we're starting to see that cold air move out a little bit. You're going to see that the cold air is going to really take shape over parts of the southern plains, and it's really just going to stick there. The southeast won't be as cold, so it'll still be cold, but it won't be as cold as what we're dealing with in, let's say, parts of the southern plains, and then the rest of the country will actually go into an above normal pattern. For tomorrow, though, you can still see that it is below normal in the central and southern plains, as well as in parts of the northeast, but it is dying down a little bit, so it's not going to be as cold. You're also starting to see that the warm air is spreading out a little bit more over the western and northern United States, and this is going to be a pattern that you're going to see take place over the next week. Here would be by Tuesday, and it's really starting to overtake the northern plains by this point in terms of the warm air. So we're seeing that warm air becoming a little bit more widespread, and then that chillier air is still lingering in through the southern plains and the central plains as well, and it's starting to moderate out if you live along the east coast, so not as big of a deal if you live pretty much in the eastern third of the country. Here to be by Wednesday of next week, and you can see that we still have above normal temperatures in through the western United States, but now you can see pretty much the entire northern tier of the country from the Rockies all the way to New England is dealing with above normal temperatures. To the south of there, we're still dealing with some chillier temperatures, although it is moderating out. And again, you can see the highest or the most below normal temperatures are going to be in the southern plains. That looks to be the real bullseye in terms of the chilliest temperatures or the coldest temperatures, I guess I should say. Here to be by Thursday, and you can see warm air just continuing to spread over the western and northern United States. These are well above normal temperatures, possibly getting up into the 90s in parts of the Dakotas next week. So really, it's going to get quite warm in many of these regions. Here would be for Friday here, and you can see the warm air is really starting to move out of the western United States, so it's not as warm in areas like California, Oregon, and Nevada, and it's not moving into areas like Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, into Minnesota as well. So that's where we're dealing with the most above normal temperatures, probably by late next week. And you can see that the below normal temperatures in the southeast are moderating out, so it's a little bit warmer than what we were dealing with before. And in the southern plains, we're dealing with still below normal, but not as cold as we were dealing with before. Here would be by Saturday, and you can see that line separating the cold and the warm just continues to head further and further to the south. So every single day, we're going to see that push a little bit further south and move all that cold air out of there. You are starting to see our next area of chillier air start up in British Columbia and Washington, and so that's going to continue to head further east. So it's going to be a moving pattern. We're not going to be dealing with 2 or 3 weeks of just, or we're not going to be dealing with maybe a month or two of just warm air and then another month or two of colder air. It's going to be more every other week. We're going to see some sort of a pattern change where it goes from warm to cold or from cold to warm or vice versa. So it's going to be definitely a moving and versatile type of pattern. We're not going to be stuck in any one type of pattern for the entire month or any long duration. Here would be for Sunday of next week, and you can see very warm in through the northern tier of the country, and then in the southern plains still below normal, and you're starting to see that next cold shot move into the northwest, and that's starting to grow out a little bit more. So the western United States, they were cold for maybe a week and a half, or actually warm for a week and a half. Now they're going to go into a colder pattern, and the northern plains, we would expect them to probably go into a colder pattern, probably right around the 10th through 12th, or some period throughout there, just based on how we've been seeing this pattern develop and evolve. Here's the actual high temperatures, and this is going to show you what we're actually expecting in terms of your high temperatures, so you can plan out your week. You can see that we have very cold temperatures in parts of the northeast relative to this time. So this is the last couple of days of May, and we're dealing with high temperatures into the 50s and 40s in those areas. So definitely well below normal, as you saw on the temperature map. You can also see that in parts of the southwest, we have well above normal temperatures. We're dealing with temperatures in northern California getting up above 105, so really, really warm. But you can see all these temperatures into the northern part of the country and the eastern part of the country are going to be below normal. They're going to be in the 70s and the low 80s, which in many areas is actually below what we're used to, even into the 60s in a lot of areas. So it will be rather chilly over the next couple of days. Here will be by Monday, and you can see it is starting to warm up. We're now dealing with the southern-most part of the country getting into the 90s potentially, even up through the western United States and the west coast starting to get up into the 80s as well. So it is starting to warm up. The northern plains, the Great Lakes, the northeast, all of them getting up into the 60s and 70s for the most part. The only exception would be parts of New England where we're still into the 50s for you guys. Here would be by Tuesday, June 1st, and you can see that we're dealing with those warmer temperatures starting to expand over parts of the western United States, and you can start to see it's moving into parts of the Dakotas and Montana, where we're seeing a few temperatures reach up near 85 degrees by Tuesday. Here would be by Wednesday, even warmer in many of these areas, and where you're seeing kind of that gray shade start to pop up in areas like Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota. That's where you're actually getting up near 90 degrees. So it is really warming up quite quickly into the northern plains. It's still warmer in parts of the southeast, even though technically it's actually below normal by this point, just because your average temperatures are very high compared to the rest of the country. You will still have temperatures that are getting into the mid 80s, although it will be a degree or two below what you're used to on an average basis. If we go to Thursday, you can see that it's even warmer in parts of the northern plains, so you have temperatures that are widespread in parts of Montana and the Dakotas getting up into the 90s, and I wouldn't even rule it out that a couple areas in maybe Montana or let's say South Dakota get up near 100 degrees, so definitely not out of the question. In parts of the southwest, it's also heating up, so anywhere from about Las Vegas south and westward is getting up into the 90s and also above 100 in many of those areas, so it's getting really, really warm in parts of the southwest. We went from chilly last week in the southwest to now getting very, very warm rapidly in these areas. Here would be for Friday, and you can see that in the northern plains, starting to see that warm air take place. The center of the warm air went from parts of Montana and Wyoming, and now it's shifting into areas like the Dakotas and Minnesota. And you're going to see gradually that area of warm air is going to shift from the Dakotas and Minnesota into the Great Lakes and eventually into the Northeast before all of that moves out, and we get into probably another colder pattern for a couple of weeks. So it's going to be, again, one of those progressive and gradual types of patterns where we're going to go from one pattern to another within a couple of days. Here to be by Saturday, and you can see pretty much the entire part of the country, the entire northern part of the country is getting into the warmer temperatures. So anywhere from the northeast to the north central part of the country, we're dealing with above normal temperatures into the 80s and 90s. So all of that is taking place over the next few weeks. We're going to be seeing this move from cold to warm in many of these areas, where this weekend it's going to be cold in much of the northern United States, and then the next couple of days it'll actually go into much more of a warmer pattern. And then here would be for Sunday of next week. And you can see that those warm temperatures are still persisting in the northern part of the country and in the southwest as well. If we look at the 6 to 10 day outlook, you can see that we have a much above normal chance in parts of the western, northern, and eastern part of the country. The only exception would be in parts of the southern plains, where we actually have a little area of below normal. And this would be from June 3rd to June 7th. And then if we go from June 5th to June 11th on the 8 to 14 day outlook, you can still see that little area in parts of Texas and Louisiana and some of the surrounding areas. And then one little patch there in the northwest. But the rest of the country is expected to be above normal. And the most above normal area is moving from the western part of the country and the northern plains into parts of the Great Lakes and the Northeast, like I talked about just a couple minutes ago. So we're going to see this warm air gradually shift further and further to the east. If we look at the 3 to 4 week outlook, which goes from June 12th through to the 25th, you can see that in the areas from the Rockies westward, and then also into the northern plains and the eastern third of the country, we have those above normal temperatures. The most above normal is expected to be in the northeast and also in the southwest, with still a little area below normal in parts of the southern plains. So we're not really going to go away from the below normal temperatures. And then here's the 3 to 7 day hazards outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, or actually the Weather Prediction Center. And you can see that we have much above normal temperatures that are expected in this red area right here. So they are expecting the threat of potentially seeing rather warm temperatures in many of these areas, getting up into the 80s and 90s, even a few triple digit numbers. Here would be the area that they're expecting heavy rain, so potentially some flooding issues in parts of Oklahoma and Texas. And other than that, we don't have many other hazards for the 3 to 7 day outlook. If we look at the 8 to 14 day outlook from the 5th through the 11th in terms of the hazards, you can see that we have two different areas of excessive heat that's expected. We have a slight risk of excessive heat, but 20% chance from the 9th through to the 11th. And then we even have a moderate risk of excessive heat, which is for the 5th of June, and that covers parts of California, Nevada, and Utah. So things are really starting to heat up here. We're getting into a much warmer pattern for the beginning of June. So it's definitely going to make for some nice summer weather. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the nicer pattern. If you did enjoy this video, please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.